Welcome to another episode of the Not Scrum Dumb podcast. My name is Andriana Marshall, and that is
I am Grand Scrum Master Scott.
today we are doing our Q&A series where you ask a question and we answer it. So today we got a question in the comments that we're going to answer from Miranda. So thank you, Miranda. And if anyone else wants to leave any comments with questions, feel free to reach out. We'll answer and then we'll also make a video to help others. So her question is in regards to a previous video that we did where we talked about a Scrum Master is accountable for making sure the Scrum events are actually held. So her question is, how does a Scrum Master ensure that the daily Scrum and other Scrum events are held when you don't have direct authority? Great question. Scott, do you want to kick us off?
Yes, Andriana. Wow, that question ever since I've heard of it has been having me thinking. I've never had that question before. Why? Because the company has decided, or wherever we practice in Scrum, they have decided we want to play this game called Scrum. And just like any other game, whether you play Monopoly or Connect Four or something like that, there are rules that comes along with that game if you want to play that game. So when I read the Scrum Guide, it says we as Scrum Masters make sure that the events are positive, productive, and kept within the time box. So it's already built into the game that we're playing, whether we have authority or not. And we as the Scrum Master are responsible for making that happen. So I never thought about it from an authority standpoint. I just say, hey, we're going to have daily Scrum. We're going to have sprint planning. We're going to have sprint review, and we're going to have sprint retrospective. And I've never had anybody kick back on that. But that's my take on it, Andriana. What are your thoughts?
Yes, so this is actually a funny thing. I do know someone who got pushback and she just like left her team and was like, okay, well, you don't have to do Scrum and I don't need to be here. There are plenty of other teams that need help. And so she left her team and I was like, oh my gosh, we could do that. I didn't know that was a thing we could do. And they were like, no, she could do that. Don't you go out and try it. So, but I think it's really interesting this question. So I will say you don't necessarily need direct authority to do your job. Your job is there in place for a reason. So for example, I worked obviously as a scrum master, right? So my role as a scrum master has authority in it, even though people are not necessarily reporting to me. But I think the biggest part to actually make sure these events are held is making sure that you understand the purpose as a scrum master, you should, and then explaining the benefits and the purpose. And if people don't want to actually have the events, you need to dig deeper and find out why don't they actually want to have these events? What's the root cause? And try to solve that problem. The events may not be fruitful for them. So they're like, we should just eliminate this. It doesn't make sense. It's not working out for us. Don't confuse authority with like dictatorship. You don't have to dictate. You do these for people to actually follow you and understand the benefits of something and do the meetings on a daily basis.
I like that. All good stuff. You said a bit there that got me to thinking. To your point, yes, oftentimes, developers may feel like, hey, we have too many meetings and they don't really see the value out of one Scrum event or another. And, that's where we're going to put on, we could just say, we could just drop the gavel. Hey, we're doing Scrum. We're going to do this event, period. But let's look at the human side of it and say, okay, we're servant leaders, remember? We're servant leaders and we do have authority, but we don't want to use command and control. So, as Andriana mentioned, instead of just dropping the gavel saying, okay, like you in a courtroom and I'm the judge, we're going to do this whether you like it or not. However, let's put on our coaching hat and ask some questions of why don't y'all want to do this? Especially like with something like sprint retrospective. You don't want to improve or what's going on. Really just try to use your coaching stats to figure out what's going on. And ultimately, yes, you're going to land that we're going to do this event, but try to find out what's going on before you get to that point. And I think there's some feedback opportunity for us as Scrum Masters that whatever that feedback we get, maybe it's something that we're not doing. Scott, you doing the same old, sprint retrospective the same old way. I'm just bored. I'm falling asleep in your retrospective. Oh my God, can you spruce it up? Thank you for the feedback. Yes, I will do that
Yeah.
next
Yeah.
event.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is let's go back to the Scrum Guide, right? So Scrum Master is accountable for establishing Scrum as defined in the Scrum Guide. If your organization is not going to let you do that, then that's probably not the best place for you to be. It reminds me of the same as like a product owner. You need authority to be able to make product decisions. As a Scrum Master, you need to have organizational authority, not necessarily direct authority, not necessarily people reporting to you, but the organization needs to back this and your decisions. All right, thanks everyone for watching. If you made it to the end of this video, you are legendary and have a greater attention than a goldfish. Thanks for watching. You feel free to leave comments in the description. We'll have resources in the description for you to continue learning Scrum and also connect with us on LinkedIn.